Hey guys, Matt here from Trailers of the East Coast here in Mossville, North Carolina. Coming to you today to talk a little bit about tow vehicle and trailer maintenance and important parts of the vehicle and of the trailer that you need to check out at the beginning of every trailering season and before you go on any long trips. We actually have a checklist that we put together. There'll be a link to this down below this video here in the description, and we'll also have it posted on our website, so you can actually download this, keep it in your vehicle, keep it in your trailer, and have a nice list of things that you can check off as you go through your checkouts. But we're going to start today with our tow vehicle. I'll show you a few things that you need to check out as far as under the hood and also around the vehicle, just to make sure that your maintenance is up to date and also that it's safe. Then we'll work our way back to the trailer and wrap everything up at the end. Now, under the hood, everybody's tow vehicle is going to look a little bit different. Obviously, today what I'm showing you is a gas engine. You may also have a diesel truck or any different type of vehicle. This particular one is a gas V8. And I'm going to show you just a few of the things that you need to check out before you go towing or at the beginning of every season, just to make sure that your vehicle's in tip-top order and is not going to break down on you on the road. The first thing that you always need to check is all of your fluid levels. Now, these are located in very similar spots in most vehicles. On this particular vehicle, the big ones that you really need to check, of course, are your brake fluid, as well as your transmission fluid, engine oil, coolant, and power steering fluid, which you actually really can't see from this angle, but is located down on the side of the engine, and the cap is usually very clearly labeled. Now, each manufacturer has different procedures for checking these fluid levels, so check in your owner's manual and make sure that you check that level in accordance with the manufacturer's procedure to ensure that your readings are accurate. Other things that you want to check at the beginning of a towing season or before any large trip is to make sure that your battery is in good charge, has a good level of electrolyte in the cells if it's openable. Some new batteries nowadays are actually sealed and you can open the cells up to check. But if your battery has removable caps, then absolutely you can purchase a tool at any auto parts store that usually costs about $5 or $10 called a hygrometer that'll allow you to actually check the level of the electrolyte in the cells. And it's very important, especially at the beginning of summer or at the beginning of winter when there's a big temperature change, to make sure that battery's in good order so it doesn't leave you stranded somewhere. Also, another important thing to check on your battery is to check the voltage. This can be accomplished using a voltmeter or multimeter, and actually most shops or auto parts stores will test them for you under load and also just sitting to make sure that the voltage is proper and the battery is fully charged. Another part that you need to check on the engine before you go towing too far is your belt drive. Some engines, older engines typically will have a V-belt style system. Newer belts, or newer engines, excuse me, will have most likely a serpentine belt style system, which are easy to tell apart. A serpentine belt will be flat with ribs on the bottom, where a V-belt, just like the name implies, is actually a V-shaped belt. Important things to check on these belts include looking for cracks, looking for any kind of fraying or tearing around the edges, and also looking at the back of the belt to see if there's any what they call glazing. Glazing is a shiny appearance to the belt, and you'll often know if your belt is glazed because it will either squeak, squeal, or even produce a chirping sound. And all those can be easily remedied by replacing a belt. Now we'll take a walk around the truck and I'll show you a few other things to check out. Now, on the wheels and tires of your tow vehicle, it's very important to check a few things. First off, before every trip, make sure that all of your lug nuts are torqued to your manufacturer's specifications, which can usually be found in your owner's manual. You also want to take a look at your tires. You want to check them for proper inflation, which normally on most vehicles will be listed on the driver's side door pillar inside. Usually there's a label that'll show the manufacturer's recommended pressure. You also want to check your tires and make sure that there's no dry rot, which it takes the appearance of little cracks on your sidewalls, almost like a dry lake bed. You also want to check for any damage, which includes bulges, any kind of punctures, nails, screws, bolts, anything like that. And you also want to check and make sure that there are no bulges in the tread, which may indicate a tire that might be delaminating, or maybe one that has some damage from where you might have hit a pothole or another object in the road. Another important thing to check is the wear on your tires. You want to check two things. First is tread depth. which can easily be accomplished by a small object most people have in their pocket, which is just a penny. What you can do is take your penny, turn it upside down so that Lincoln is standing on his head, and then stick it into your tread all the way across your tire. If the tread touches the top of Lincoln's head or goes any further, that means you've got at least 5/32 of an inch of tread depth left, which is most manufacturers' minimum specs. So you want to check all the way across the tire and make sure that in each groove it matches up, and in this case, in this tire, it does. What you'll also want to do is check your tire and make sure that wear is even all the way across, that maybe you're not wearing thin on one side of the tire or thin on the outside of the tire, because that could indicate a problem with the suspension or with the alignment that you need to correct before you go towing. You'll also want to check the condition of your brakes. You'll want to look at, in this case, this particular truck has disc brakes all the way around. Some trucks in the rear here will have drum brakes in the rear. For disc brakes, you'll want to check and make sure that your rotors have no grooves and no visible cracks in them. That could indicate a failure of the rotor, which would also necessitate replacement. And you'll also want to, if possible, take a look inside the disc brake caliper and see how much pad you have left. Now obviously it's very difficult with the wheel and tire and everything on the truck to measure how much pad you have left, but generally speaking, if you can see that you've got at least 1/8 of an inch or maybe a little bit more pad left on your front and rear pads, then you'll be more than fine and within specification for towing. Most brake pads nowadays have what they call a squeal tab on them that'll actually cause the brakes to squeal loudly when the pads have reached their minimum depth, so you'll know when to replace them. Now, making our way back around to the back of your tow vehicle, one of the other important things that you'll want to check is the condition of your hitch and receiver. Now, each hitch is attached a little differently depending on the type of tow vehicle and depending on the type of hitch that you have. If you're using a tag-along setup like this with a bumper hitch, what you'll want to do is actually once a year, once a season, get up underneath the vehicle and check and make sure that all the hardware that attaches that hitch to the frame is secure and is tight. Because especially if you've had one installed on a vehicle that didn't come with one from the factory, the bolts can work loose over time, and it's a good idea just to get underneath it and make sure that they're torqued up. You'll also want to make sure that your hitch receiver tube and all your connections underneath here are free of rust, just for the simple fact that if your receiver tube is full of rust, it's going to make it really hard to get this bar in and out if you need to adjust to different sizes for different trailers. So take a wire brush to it, maybe take a can of black spray paint and touch up any spots where there's any rust, just to make sure that it stays rust-free and in good condition for you. And finally, we want to make sure that all the safety equipment on our vehicle is functioning properly. That includes checking and making sure that your headlights, both your low beams and your high beams, your parking lights and turn signals work, and also making sure with a quick bump that the horn works as well. That'll make sure that you're safe not only to yourself but to other drivers on the road. Well, now that we've covered some of the tow vehicle checkpoints, we'd like to move back to the trailer and show you just a few things that you need to check out here every season or before any long trips. Working our way from the front of the trailer to the back, obviously the first part of the trailer that you come to is your coupler and jack. It's very important on these to check every year, every season. Make sure that your coupler is secured to the tongue of your trailer. Now each manufacturer does this a little bit different. This particular trailer, which is an Adam Horse trailer, one of many that we stock here, they actually weld the couplers onto these trailers. So while there aren't any bolts that can work loose, you do need to check and inspect these welds just once a season or before any big trips. Make sure that there's no major rust, any cracks, anything like that. Now being, of course, a steel trailer, they are going to show signs of rust, and even this one does a little bit. But just making sure that there are no cracks running through these welds, and make sure that the coupler is securely attached. Your jack, in the same aspect, will have bolts usually that will attach them because they make them replaceable easily. Make sure that these bolts are nice and tight. Make sure that your jack is operating smoothly. If you need to, a lot of them are serviceable and you can actually grease them if necessary. So just make sure that the jack and the coupler are in working order, well lubricated, and also secure. You can also test a coupler quite easily using what I like to call a lift test. And what this does is it makes sure that the coupler's actual mechanism that grabs onto the ball hasn't worn loose or developed a lot of slack that will cause it to release from the ball unintentionally. And an easy way to do that is to attach your coupler to your tow vehicle like we've shown you in previous videos, and then simply drop the jack to the ground and give it a few turns up. And what you'll actually see is the tow vehicle will start to be lifted up by the tongue of the trailer. Now, you don't want to put a lot of load on this because it's not designed to do that. But what that does is it just shows that the coupler does have a good bite on the ball, and even under a strong upward load, it's not going to let go on you. You'll also want to check while you're here. Make sure that your safety chains are not rusted. They don't have any damaged links. Make sure that your hooks that clip onto your tow vehicle are in good shape, not bent, and that their spring clips are operating properly and actually positively locking into their place. And you'll want to check and make sure that your breakaway cable is free from any kinks, damage, or fraying, or any rust that may cause them to either snag on something or break unintentionally. Also check your 7-pin electrical connector. Make sure that all your pins are free from any kind of corrosion or rust or anything like that. Make sure there's no debris in there, as well as in the plug on your tow vehicle. And it's always a good idea to keep this coated with a light coat of dielectric grease, which you can get in our parts department. You can get it at most auto parts stores. Even gas stations usually carry it, which is a specialized grease that will keep moisture from sitting inside this connector and rusting the contacts. Working our way back, again with our breakaway system, typically your battery and if it's equipped, your charger will be located on the tongue of your trailer. In this case, a Hopkins unit here that this trailer has a built-in charger and actually has a built-in level test, which what that'll do is enable you to check and make sure that your breakaway battery is maintaining a charge. What you'll do is basically just press the test button on top, and you'll see the green light illuminate. It means charged. Now there's also a yellow light for charging, which will illuminate if it's hooked up to your tow vehicle while it's running, and also a red light which says recharge. If that light illuminates after the trailer has been hooked up to your tow vehicle for some time, that basically means that you need to have the battery checked out because it may be bad. They do have a life cycle. They certainly won't last forever, but generally speaking, they're fairly maintenance-free for many, many years. But it's always a good idea, again, every season to check that out just to make sure. You'll also want to check and make sure that your spare tire, if your trailer's equipped with one, is fully inflated, that it's not showing any signs of dry rot, cracking, or damage as well. These tires tend to sit out in the sun. They tend to sit out in the elements a little bit more than the ones that are on the vehicle, and so sometimes they may get dried out a little bit quicker. We see a lot of folks that actually will end up replacing a spare tire that hasn't even been mounted on the trailer just because it's sat there and it's dry rotted. So make sure that you check those every season, because when it comes time and you need that spare tire, you don't want to come up here and it be flat, or as soon as you put it on the trailer, have another blowout. Now, working our way around to the wheels and tires on the trailer, we want to go through the same basic set of checks that we did on our tow vehicle, of course involving checking our tread depth with our penny. And again, you want to do that all the way across the tire, just to make sure that the wear is even. Now, on trailer axles, because they're a little bit different than your vehicle, there are a couple more little things that you need to check every now and then. One is actually your hubs and bearings. Trailer axles will actually have a replaceable and serviceable hub and bearing assembly. This particular trailer has what they call easy lube axles on it. What that means is, instead of having just a traditional dust cap and a bearing that you have to pack full of grease and actually remove it to do so, these hubs actually will have a spring-loaded piston type cap in them. And what happens is you pump grease into it with a grease gun, and then the spring actually keeps grease forced into the bearing while you're going down the road, which actually extends the life of your bearings quite a bit. There's a small rubber dust cap, and once you remove that, you'll see a standard grease fitting, or what they sometimes call a zerk fitting. If you take your grease gun and just slowly squirt grease in, you'll see that there's a line on the outside of the housing that's usually fairly easy to identify. And as long as you load that cap all the way down and pull it all the way out to that line, you'll know that you've got plenty of grease and that your hub is well serviced. Another thing that's easy to check, and I'm not going to do it here just for ease of demonstration, is to check and make sure that the bearings and the hubs are tight enough and don't have too much play. And that can be accomplished by jacking up the trailer using just a standard automotive jack, or using one of our trailer aids like you've seen in a previous video, and actually grabbing hold of the wheel and tire, but from each side, and giving it a wiggle back and forth. You shouldn't feel too much play. There will be a very small amount, which is considered normal, but anything more than just the slightest amount, you may want to bring it by to our service department here at Trailers, or actually just take them apart yourself and check and make sure that your bearings aren't excessively warm, because that is a sign of that. Now finally, what we'll want to do on our trailer, just to make sure that we're 100% road ready, is to ensure that all of our doors, and in the case of this horse trailer, a slide gate, we want to make sure that all of those are secure, and make sure that they're not going to go anywhere by checking our latches and making sure that they're all hooked into place where they belong, and make sure that there's no loose doors or any sliders that can come open on the trailer while we're going down the road. We'll also want to check and make sure, just like when we hitch up our trailer, and make sure that all of our lights are working, none of them are burnt out. Make sure that your license plate is securely attached. Make sure that it's illuminated, of course, if you're in a state that requires a license plate. And just to make sure that everything that's supposed to be lit up is lit up and visible, again, so that not only you're safe, but you're safe to other drivers on the road. And one final word of advice, if you're traveling somewhere where you're going to have to set your trailer down and separate it from your tow vehicle for a period of time, or if you're going anywhere where you just need to leave your vehicle and trailer unattended for any period of time, it's always a good idea to keep with you a coupler lock and also locking pin. And basically this is a set that we carry here that's made by Master Lock, and it comes with a coupler lock that actually will lock in where your ball normally goes in your coupler when your trailer is unattached from your vehicle, and also a pin that replaces this standard clip pin that comes with most trailers that we'll give you when you take one home from us. And what that does is it makes it practically impossible for somebody to disconnect the trailer from your tow vehicle, or for them to hook up their own tow vehicle to one in the event that somebody tried to steal your trailer. So just to recap what we've covered today, we've covered some safety check lists for your tow vehicle and for your trailer. We've also covered the important points that you need to look at before each and every trip, and also for every season, just to make sure that your tow vehicle and trailer are both in tip-top shape, and will provide you with a long life of safe trailering. Again, this is Trailers of the East Coast. We're located in Mocksville, North Carolina. The trailer that we use to demonstrate for you today is a 2-horse Adams steel trailer, which is one of several trailers that we keep in stock here. Not only horse trailers, but also cargo trailers, race car haulers, RVs, and many other types of trailer. So if you need anything, any trailers, if you need any parts, accessories, service, or any custom work done, please don't hesitate to give us a call. You can also check us out on the web at www.trailerseast.com, or you can come visit us here at 418 Interstate Drive in Mocksville, North Carolina. Again, I'm Matt Plaster, sales consultant here with Trailers of the East Coast, and from all of us here, happy trailing.